Uh, Hello, welcome to the 27th Salon of Techspressionism here on the internet. And everybody, I'm happy to see everybody. And before we start with today's
Oh,
Salon,
Lee, it's actually the 76th Salon.
76. Oh my gosh, what did I say? 27th. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Welcome to the 76th episode of Techspressionism Salon. And before we start, we have two really important messages. And one is going to be that Renata and Tommy and um, Stephen are going to be talking about Siberiana to the tail end of our salon. And at the head of it, right at the beginning, we're going to have Cynthia explain to everybody how we can be doing this in many languages at the same time. Take it away, Cynthia.
Thank you, Lee. We had a little chance with virtual co-working on Tuesday to work with the translation ability of Zoom, and that's thanks to Colin, who took that upon himself to get it straightened out. If you look at the bar at the bottom or the top of your screen, and again, I don't know how this works on iPhones or iPads, but if you can bring up the bar where share screen is, if you look, for me, it's to the right of record, or before reactions, somewhere in that vicinity, you'll see CC show captions. And if you click on that, you can see there is caption language, view true full transcript, and caption settings. If you touch caption language, you can see you can pick whatever language you would like to pick to receive the commentary during the Zoom in that language. And so I think we had some luck with that the last time with Kianush. I don't know if he's still on. He was on earlier. So if you have the need of using a different language, please make use of this capability in Zoom. Any questions?
Well, I have one. I thought your instructions. I went and I selected a language for fun. Tagalog, it was right there, but I'll try another one. Estonian, and then it says, okay, do you want to save it? And then I don't see anything. Where do I see the translated CC version?
It's supposed to show up either in chat, or it's supposed to show up just because you've selected it at the bottom of the screen. At least I had that work for me.
I think you hit show captions, although I'm not sure if each user can show different languages. It seems like now I'm seeing Tagalog, whatever that, I don't even know what that is, but it might just be that there's global language setting. I don't know that it could be done at the user level. But if you click the little CC button, it should toggle show captions and hide captions.
Yes.
If you guys are able to see that, but I'm seeing it in this French now, it looks like. Oh, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah, it's French now. Oh, now I see it. Okay, and then you click on show captions. Well, that's wonderful.
Okay, so show captions is got to be chosen, and of course the language, and then you said, Lee, you have to save, right?
Yeah, a window pops up and says, is this the language you want? And then you can click it, and then
But I think there's only one language per. It's like it seems like when you're changing the language, I'm actually seeing it in that language too. So it isn't like every user can select a different language. This is actually the first time I've seen this work in action, but
if we speak in a foreign language, does it change it to English?
That's a good question.
Maybe Lee can demonstrate that.
Bien sûr, si nous avons parlé en français, faisait-il en anglais?
Wow,
like it.
Enciora. It's trying to figure out what language it is. Wow, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't, it's not perfect, just like Google Translate isn't perfect, but it was working for us in co-working. And unfortunately, Cynthia Beth Rubin wasn't able to make it. I know Kianush used it and Sahar had helped with setting it up. Sahar, is there anything you can add to what we did Tuesday?
I turned it off and I turned English on because it's like I can read it sometimes, but I didn't turn Persian. But Kianush, I think he was using Persian language.
Okay, so you used the language that you want to.
He chose Persian and saved it, and he was
Yeah,
well, it seems like that
yes,
there can only be one language selected for the entire group.
but it's now in Italian. I think
so there's only really
can
we should probably set it to Persian, right? Because there is
now
only English speakers Persian.
Maybe Persian in the co-working session, so we chose.
Oh, here's
so why don't we try that? I'll set it to Persian. How about now? Is it coming up in Persian?
I think Sahar needs to say something in Persian.
No, I mean, it should translate the English to Persian.
No.
Oh, yeah, look at that. It looks like it's in Persian.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
Why?
Is that
so we'll just have to, in each salon, see who's in there, who's in, that is an English speaking, and we can do an alternate language, that.
And maybe we can explore if there's a setting within Zoom to allow each participant to choose a language. So that's maybe something we can check out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only seeing that when I select a language, it says something about, everyone in the session sees that. But yeah, we could definitely look at that. Actually, Cynthia Beth Rubin was the person that told me about this, so maybe she knows more than I do about it.
She did show briefly. Maybe she's having trouble connecting.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, it definitely is an interesting addition, and you could say apparently you could save under that same show captions.
It's not accurate, but I don't know. Okay, we would just turn it on.
Interesting, that's for sure. Thanks
it's
for
not translating accurate, very accurate, but.
So Sahar, it's working for you with Persian on?
The Persian is on, but it's actually not very accurate translation.
Right.
Sometimes gets funny.
That's what I noticed before. When Lee was speaking, it was the words were like, what, maybe it's this word?
Maybe we
guessing kind of.
We have to choose English. We can read it. Yeah, because the Persian
English caption is more than better Persian.
Really getting funny, and it's not. It doesn't make sense.
Should I set it to, I mean, we could try setting it to English and see if that.
I think all of them. I think maybe it's an AI, and eventually it'll learn.
I think English is okay.
Okay, why don't we do that so that
English
people can read. Okay, so we're back to English now, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's showing up in English.
Okay.
So now, now before, well, maybe a little bit of a preamble about phreaking. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before the show, before the salon started. what I really liked was during the after Salon last week or last month when we were thinking of a name, I don't really know why I said it at first. It was just like it came up and I was like, and now that I think about it, it makes sense. But I also really like what Patrick said at the time was like, what about Phreaking as a metaphor? Although also right now, we were saying before the Salon that everybody should be encouraged to show whatever they find freaking cool. But as a metaphor, when Phreaking started, they were people who were interested in playing with telecommunications, late 50s, 60s, 70s. Eventually, they had little ways that they can make free long distance calls and stuff. But it was it wasn't just about getting something for free. It was about exploring this new field of the telecommunications field, where sounds would do things, unlock things, and open. Like it led into, or maybe worked hand in hand with hacking. So this has become a whole culture, and this also led into the demo scene. And I think Colin has some demo scenes lined up to show everybody. And the demos were another way that people were using code to make visual imagery, but really focusing on having like clean code, very lightweight, but visually captivating electronic imagery. And so in a way, it kind of makes sense that it was like a lot of it seems to have come down from this, and it encompasses glitch art and data moshing, and then a lot of things that anybody who uses, I think, who uses a visual app and learns how to tweak different things, and creates, they used to look for new pathways for a process. So I think there's a lot of things that are, as a metaphor, a lot like what we're doing here in Techspressionism. And like I said, I think Colin has got some demos. I have a really nice data mosh that if there's interest in looking at a data mosh, I have that saved up. And I did actually I showed Colin, I showed you them, and Sahar saw them earlier this week, but I did have a couple of shots that I kind of took a few days ago, thinking about the whole thing about Phreaking and how the payphone was a big part of it. And there's a payphone right around the corner from me, which is the only payphone I know of anymore. There used to be payphones on every block, and this, I don't even know why this one exists still. And it's spray painted, and graffiti people come by, and to me, it just it's quite an image of like a medium that no longer, like, nobody uses. Who's even nowadays? Who even has a quarter? Everybody uses a debit card, and so how are you gonna use a payphone? And also, if you don't have your cell phone, what's the number? So to me, it's really interesting that I have this relic outside of my house. So I like to shoot it sometimes, and I often have different in the rogue pano world, the pano art world, they call them brush strokes, a series of movements, and I have a couple of new ones, so I was taking advantage of them. So I wouldn't mind showing that too. I'll ask the mod if it's okay. But I think before I even do that, Colin, would you want to show everybody some of these demos?
Sure. So let me share my screen here. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Okay. So yeah, so you know, I had a little bit of personal experience with Phreaking, which is spelled Phreaking, and that really stems from the word phone, that the PH anyway. And you know, back when I was a kid in the 80s, there was no web, so people, or basically, you know, there was sort of a subgroup of computer users that used to go in and dial into people's homes. generally to trade, pirated video games, pretty much. At least that was my experience of it. And then there were also these Phreakers that I think that originated. I just actually looked up who invented the blue box, which was an early piece of hardware that we were talking about before the Salon that would generate phone tones to allow people to make free phone calls. And it turns out that I had thought it was him, but the inventor of the blue box was Steve Wozniak. Designed and built by Steve Wozniak and marketed by Steve Jobs circa 1972. So very interesting. And, the sort of folk history of Apple, I don't know if it's true or not, is Apple flew a pirate flag at their corporate headquarters, and they were pretty blatant about having, stolen the GUI from Xerox early on that, now we know is the Macintosh operating system that, Bill Gates basically stole from Apple in Windows. So, it's all kind of like that. Anyway, quick definition of phreaking according to Wikipedia. Slang term coined to describe the activity of a culture of people who study, experiment with, or explore telecommunication systems, such as equipment and systems connected to public telephone networks. The term phreak is a sensational spelling of the word freak with a PH from phone and can also refer to the use of various audio frequencies to manipulate a phone system. So if any of you guys want to expand further on that, there's a magazine called 2600, which the title is based on a certain phone tone. I believe it's a frequency of 2600 hertz that early hackers and phreakers would use to make free phone calls. Anyway, that leads me into these demos, which generally, I mean, my first computer was a Commodore 64, and there were these groups, basically cracking crews that were sort of synonymous or similar, parallel to like graffiti crews that would crack software, generally video games, pirate them, trade them, and it seems like, at least in this generation of phreakers, the necessity for phreaking was that most of the big game companies like EA, Electronic Arts, and Epics, they would test market their games in England first because it was a smaller audience and see which games people liked before releasing them in the US. So all the kids in like New York would hack MCI card codes to dial into bulletin boards in London, in the UK, and then they trade games, months or even a year ahead of release in the United States. So at least that's how I know about it, but I never did it, I promise. And then before before the game would start, there'd be these demos that would sort of show off the skills of the cracking people. And to me, that's sort of an early cultural precursor of NFT culture, which a lot of the people in the NFT scene are anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, pseudonymous. I don't know, but they use handles, instead of putting their real names out there. And cryptocurrency inherently is anonymous to some degree, anyway, in terms of using wallet addresses versus personal identifiers. So I think there's a lot of connections between the demo scene of the 80s and today's NFT culture. And also, a lot of stuff that's in style right now is pixelated graphics that are reminiscent of the 80s and 90s, just culturally speaking. So okay, so this is definitely like a cracking crew that broke games, and then it's almost like graffiti's tagging up subway cars. I recognize that music. That's from this game, The Last Ninja. This must have been an intro screen to that. Anyway, I'm waxing nostalgic here, but those are some demos. If you want to look at demos, you could just go to YouTube and type in Commodore 64 demo scene or Apple II's demo scene. That was sort of a competing platform at that time. There were definitely crews on Apple as well. So that's my little intro.
Hey, Colin. C64 was actually 82.
82, okay.
Yeah. I was working on C64 games while at Coleco. So yeah.
Nice. What games were you working on at that time?
Oh golly, Tarzan. Oh gosh, a whole bunch of different ones. I mean, when we did ColecoVision games, we also did C64 games at the same time, and Atari 2600 sometimes got licensed out depending on the titles. So yeah, it's been a while.
Awesome. Well, it's cool to have, an actual developer, commercial game developer in the group. It's a lot of history behind that.
Now, thanks, Colin, for showing that. The next thing that we were talking about before the salon started was we were mentioning the data moshing, so everybody could see this other way that people are taking. It's sort of like this movement of playing with the telecommunications, exploring the machinery, and then the hacking, and then trying to use the code to make imagery, and then trying to find ways that you can, manipulate the imagery. So it seems to me that they're all somewhat related in a way. I hope that came out okay.
Lee, could you paste the link to that YouTube video in the chat if you don't mind?
Oh, certainly. And you know what? I'm going to paste the link in the video, and I'm also going to paste a link to some of the software, but also maybe there's a really good Reddit subreddit, so that might be the way to direct people. If people are interested in playing with these softwares or in exploring data moshing. It's definitely a fun experiment. And I find recently I've been noticing that there's quite a few people in the glitch world. I've been looking at their glitches lately, and I've been stopping them like, are you data moshing too? And they're like, a little bit. So they're like, these things are all sort of overlapping. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to add the link there for sure. But while we're doing that,
it actually looks a lot. I didn't realize it, but one of the artists that was in the Techspressionism Digital and Beyond show, Sue Byer, who's from Australia. When I was looking at a lot of her work, now I'm realizing that must have been data moshing. I'll put a link to her page in the chat too. But now that I'm seeing what this band did, it's probably, she was probably playing with that technology too.
And there's a lot of like on the Reddits, especially, there's a lot of people sharing their little tips, like I haven't played with this for a while now. But I remember picking up little tips and going, oh, why don't we do that? Like we can, it's something about like, if you're having using complementary colors, or if you have something that's moving really fast in one frame, then you mix it with something that's a little more stagnant. There's little tricks. So I'll find that subreddit and I'll post it up there too. But the video is definitely up there now in the chat. And
I have a question, Lee. Is your Rogue piano images, would you consider those data moshing?
No, they're definitely not data moshing. And I usually get really upset when people say, oh, you do the glitch stuff. And I'm like, no, but because I feel like it's analog. what I do is analog, whereas a lot of glitch world is software. Like Datamosh, like what's it? Photomosh? Photomosh is probably a popular software in our group. I'd be so, or Motion Leap. Maybe not. Because these are some not so much glitchy, but a little glitchy. But they're definitely nice ways if you're because a lot of you have moving images more than me. A lot of my stuff is still. So with the still images, sometimes you might want to throw it in Motion Leap or something and have pieces of it flying around. Like my angels sometimes end up flying through Motion Leap. It's a fun software, and also Photomosh, but yeah, I don't do that. I'm always like we were saying before, Cynthia, you weren't here, but we were talking about the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, and my comment was how much I love to pull the headphone jack out and listen to the electronic sounds. Like I'm not good at coding, but I like electronics. I like the technology. I just like making noise, but I don't know. But nobody's got their hands up. Anybody want to show some stuff that they consider freaky? No hands.
I think Renata has her hand up.
Oh, hey, Renata.
Hey,
Please,
Lee.
take the stage, please.
So Apple did me a big favor when they put out iOS 17. I've been in the habit of making shapes that I then superimpose onto other backgrounds. But now, and I have an app that I pay for that allowed me to make message stickers. So if you have an iPhone, in the messages, you can send ready-made stickers to your friends. Well, I had my own. And one day they stopped working. And it's because iOS 17 has integrated that sticker making capability into its software. So either on the iPad or on the iPhone, I can have my shapes cut out perfectly. As you can see, this one's pretty clean. I was recently asked to be part of a zine in Leipzig, Germany, and the artist who asked me to participate is a new member of Techspressionism, and he wanted work in black and white. So I didn't have the ability, but Michael Price helped me to tweak the image to make it ready for print. And so this is a black and white version of one of my recent works. This is similar in structure, but a color work. And I guess what I want to draw your attention to is the egg-shaped image is a cutout, but inside the egg-shaped image is a portion of the sticker that was on the title page of this presentation. I like very much being able to layer various iterations of various shapes or tools that I use. So for example, in this work, you have some of the old familiar Tintin images. On the left, the black shapes are a gorilla. If you zoom in close, I guess. Can I zoom in here? Yeah, I guess you can see the gorilla there jumping. And he's saying, whoa. And then on this side, you have the ship's horn. So that's the blast, the noise. I like these comic shorthand, if you will. And I think that most of us grew up reading various comics. So it's just one of those things that I like to play with. Here again, the same sticker is on the upper left-hand side. but layered behind some brushwork made with custom brushes. This is a mushroom themed work that I'm finding, you know, I'm trying to move in another direction with recession into space, having the picture plane have various parts to it. And I'm going to finish this by showing you just 10 seconds of an animation based on the painting that you just saw. Thank you.
Those are beautiful. Thank you so much, Renata.
It's my pleasure, Lee. Thanks.
Somebody else got their hand up. I saw. I think Tommy. Tommy, was your hand up? Oh, you were clapping. Oh, I thought you wanted to show some pieces. I do
I
have
can
one
show something
thing.
really quick. Oh, you want to go?
No, Colin, please.
Okay. I didn't really think of this until just now, but I have something that's sort of like a not really, I don't know. I don't know that I've seen it before, but it's directly related to this Siberiana project, which, you know, a couple of the artists here, primarily Tommy, came up with the idea of this, but to use Mozilla Hubs to curate a show, to put a show together. And I had never done anything with Mozilla Hubs, and which is sort of like an open source, multi-user 3D space kind of application. And I'd played a little bit around with this phone app called Polycam, which allows you to do 3D capture. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could do a 3D capture of my apartment and then bring it into Hubs? And I hadn't really seen that. I know that you can import 3D models into Hubs, and I did some research on that. And I saw that there's sort of an application called Sketchfab, which lets you take certain types of 3D formats and translate it into other 3D formats. So I'll show you guys what I came up with. I don't know if this is going to be my actual Siberiana project, but it was kind of fun to mess around with. So here we go. Just bring my browser over. So this is, you know, sort of a rough model, and I did that by basically walking around my apartment. There's the upstairs bedroom, kitchen. My studio is kind of this, what's essentially the dining room, and capture it, and you kind of move your hand around and you know, capture the walls and everything else like that. And this is what the import into Hubs looks like. And you can basically move around in the space. Like there's the computer, and this looks very glitchy in a way. That's what made me think of it. So this is like the computer I'm sitting at. This is when my printer was on that wall. That's the painting wall that's behind me now. Living room. It's my bike. Going into the kitchen. And you know, it's a very rough capture, but in a way that it's what makes it interesting to me. And you could also bring stuff into your actual video, if you're taking a live video walking around a space, and you can bring the 3D model into the video as an augmented reality component. And that's something that I did. I don't know if I can pull it up here, but I created something in Instagram where I took video of that. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So this was just sort of like glitched stuff in the beginning, or it was really just using an Instagram filter. But then towards the end, I dropped in the model of my apartment into the apartment, and you could kind of see, you know, it's kind of trippy and weird, and that's where this title Technodelica came from. So zooming into the laptop, and there's the actual laptop. So anyway, that's my little glitched out experiment.
That's fun. Hey, is it poly.cam?
If you look on the, well, it's a mobile app. So if you look up Polycam on the App Store, you can download it there. And I think there's like a free flavor and a paid flavor, depending on, you know, the different types of functions that it can do. But I think you can capture like 3D models of objects as well as, you know, interior spaces. I haven't really played too much with that, but I think it requires, you know, the one of the relatively newer models of iPhone that has the depth, you know, the ability to capture depth with the camera.
Karen, are you?
Well, I was, but Sahar, do you want to go first, or?
I just want to ask if there is a tutorial link that how can we import 3D models to Mozilla Hubs?
I think if you just Google import 3D models into Mozilla Hubs, that's a good starting point. I forget the actual file type name, but it was
GLB.
Sketchfab. GLB, is that it? Yeah,
GLB,
I think Sketch
global.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And you just add it as an asset. And I'm going to make an instructional video for Siberiana when gonna get this going really soon, I promise. I'm gonna record a short video that will exactly demonstrate how to do that. Cool. It's a great question.
The question I have sort of goes in with Sahar's is the 3D model is just so fascinating, Colin, that you did with the different levels and stuff. How big are those files by the time the actual structure gets put together? Because if you're putting it into Mozilla Hubs, I think there's like, for the free version, a 500 megabyte limit. So are you like maxed out so you can't put artwork into, or?
Well, they're vector files, I believe. You know, it's not actual bitmap, but it did say there were some, you know, pretty high number of polygons and textures in the capture. I'm not exactly sure of how big the file size is. It wasn't crazy though.
Oh, good. It was really cool.
This has also come up as a question, and I'm sorry to pull us towards that Siberiana discussion. When you're putting images up into your Mozilla Hubs space, you're just making a pointer, a reference to an image that's hosted elsewhere and saying, hey, here's my picture on my website. Please display it within this frame on my 3D space. So it doesn't actually take server space to store the pictures. It really just is the texture maps and that kind of stuff that stays on Mozilla.
Yeah, the GLB file, I just looked at it. It's just under 22 megs, so it's not crazy.
I have a question about Polycam. When you mentioned that on the phone, it has to be fairly recent because of the depth. I remember some time ago, Patrick Lichty was doing an awful lot of these, and he said he was doing them on an iPad, and he was doing them a couple of years ago when he had an older iPad. So I'm going to try it out on both my iPad and my phone. If that doesn't work, I'm sure there's going to be some workaround.
I don't think they do a workaround. You have to have the depth perception. I have a 12 and Polycam works on that, if that helps.
I have an XS10, but I'm running iOS 17 on it. I don't know if it's probably the hardware, not the software that I need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cynthia, or Cynthia's gone. No, you're here.
Yeah.
I see your hand is up.
Yeah, well, after Colin showed his Polycam piece, then I thought of this couple I have and a couple of other things I've done with glitching. So I thought maybe I'll share that. Okay, share screen. Okay, this first one is Polycam. I have a hanging light in my dining room that I used in Polycam, and walked around and came up with this. And then I came up with this second one. So they're very, very short, but nonetheless, it's Polycam at work. And then I did some what I would think are freaky things with primary colors. I never worked with primary color, so I decided to see what I could come up with. And I came up with this image as well from it. And here, and you can see the glitching, obviously, in that. And then I took an image that I downloaded with permission of a deep sea jellyfish. And again, it glitched, but again, it was done with software. And then I took a television glitch, and some people have already seen this from co-working, and manipulated the television glitch, and came up with this series. Bring that up there. And the thing I liked about the glitch is that it wasn't perfect. It had a lot of black around the edges so that I could get some interesting shapes within the image. These are part of a series I've been doing for a long while. I call them 2D sculptures, even though the software I use doesn't allow that. And then I began manipulating more and more and more this original glitch. And that also is pushing the glitch. And that is not one of the pieces I wanted to show. But thank you for looking. And I'll stop the share.
Added into the chat a organization that's based in Brazil that do an online glitch exhibit.
Cool.
Every year.
And those were really wonderful. I like the one that you turned into you folded up into shapes. I actually really like just from the beginning, because I think there's something about those electronic colors. I remember I had a piece a little while ago and somebody said to me, that reminds me of when my son smashed his hockey stick into the widescreen. And I'm like, oh yeah, or when I broke a monitor. And it is recently I just got a new computer, and I wanted something that I thought would be strong enough for my needs. So I got a really good gaming computer. And so far it works wonderfully for my video needs. But the funny thing is it's got these, like, they're not neon lights, but they're like these beveled pieces with a light that keeps on changing color all the time. So it's a little bit annoying, but every once in a while I've done some panel pieces with them, and that's one of the ones that I get a response from, that it reminds them of a broken monitor, and that piece to me really had that broken monitor color scheme, which I thought was really fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed those, Cynthia. Thanks.
Thank you. And I waited a long time for that glitch on the screen. And that, of course, is from the influence of, I think it's Sherry. Sherry Carver has done things with glitch screens. And so thank you for your inspiration. One of the reasons I love this group.
Oh, wonderful. Wow,
Definitely
Sherry, is your hand up?
Sherry and Tommy and Lee, I see all you guys in here. I think all three of you have work that's really relevant to this topic as far as using the hardware and software in different sort of ways that they might not have been intended to. Just putting that out there.
Well, I hope Sherry wants to show soon. I'd love to show a couple of pieces that I did shoot this past week, just thinking about the Phreaking. And as I was saying in the pre-salon, there's a payphone near my house. It's the only payphone I know in the city now. I've been fixated on it for a while, but I went and did another shot just 2 days ago, thinking about the Salon. So I'd love to show a little bit of it if that's okay. And the first one here is this is the payphone, and I'm amazed that you can actually still put coins in it, but and I don't know if you can see, and there's a mushroom. So I hope Renata is seeing my mushroom phone, and this is one of the pieces, but and this was my favorite piece that I got to do with the phone. This one's not as glitchy. Yeah, it is. It just takes a while to load up, because that's the thing, is the size is so huge on these. I guess they are. I mean, I have a weird relationship with glitch, because a lot of glitch to me, while I like the way it looks, to me it's very much plug and play. And for me, there's no plugging usually. Well, I mean, it's plugging in the sense that Cupertino made an algorithm that allows me to do this. This was a pretty good one, because you actually could put a quarter in if you have a quarter. I don't think I've seen a quarter in 3 years now. I mean, ever since COVID started, I haven't. Somebody paid me for a piece 2 weeks ago. They came into town and they bought a piece of mine, and they paid me cash. And I still have it here. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Yeah, but so the idea of a payphone blows my mind. And then this is I guess it's a little glitchy. But I shot this thinking specifically about Phreaking. And so yeah, I thought it might be contextually appropriate for today's salon. Those are my pieces. Thank you very much. And now I hope I didn't, Sherry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm so curious to see your stuff now.
I think Lee has his hand up.
Oh, really? Oh, please, Lee, please take the stage.
Well, I figured that sort of following up on that, I could show a bit of work. I'm certainly interested in how the phone, the little intelligence in the phone gets screwed up by putting it in a situation it's not really designed for. Is that showing? That looks like it's showing fine. And so this is my work from Japan early this summer that I'm sort of finishing up on the editing and work on. And so they take a little while to sharpen up, but it certainly is pixelating, or not pixelating, but fractalizing. And I guess that's a visual version of the whole Phreaking phenomenon. So these are all shot again using the panorama function, as the other Lee says. And I'm shooting from train window, and it's all created by the phone. So trying to understand how algorithms see the world is really the way I look at it. And so the it's at a bit of a boundary condition, not really being able to put things together the way it's designed to, because it's not getting exactly the right information, since it's flying through space sideways instead of staying in one place and moving. But it's compiling, and it's trying to put together an image of the world that it's passing through, and trying to in a way understand that, or at least that's how I think of it. And if these are going to be the eyes of the new artificial intelligences that we put out there, well, you know, they're going to see that it's sort of a way of thinking about how they see the world, or will be seeing the world, and how different it is from how we see the world. Sometimes very subtly different, and other times really shivering. That's what I have, unless you want me to go through like all the B-roll there, but thank you.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much, Lee. I love those tessellated clouds up at the top. That's fantastic. One day I'd love to have a one-on-one with you and go through our different brush strokes and show you mine and see some of yours, because I can see, I'm like, okay, I think he's doing like a little figure 8 here, because you got those strong verticals, and I'm like, okay, this is really neat. And but yeah, very, very beautiful. And isn't it interesting how like in the Lee's case, with an S, no apostrophe, but in our case, both of us are doing something similar, mixing Pano, playing with the algorithm, and yet I find, like, when I look at yours, I'm like, oh yeah, Lee's in Japan. Okay, I like those. I like yours. I've seen some of them before, and I like these. I like the way they're lined up, and I know that it's. I think it's really wonderful when we look at tech art, Techspressionism, and we can see the artist in the pieces. And I think that this is, you know, like, I can think of a whole bunch of people in this room right now, and I'm like, yeah, yours I know, yeah, yours I know, yeah, yours I, and I'm not saying I know all your work, but your own style, your own essence comes out, and that's what we want. Like, that's what you look at all the other Sprenisms from the past, you know, post impressionism and expressionism and post express. You look at these pieces and you know when it's a Kiefer, you know when it's a Van Gogh, you know this. You see the brush stroke, you see the handling, and if you're in this world, you know them. And I think it's fantastic when we can look at things. I'm sure everybody in this room, if we're seeing a Janiszewska, we know it's a Janiszewska. If I'm looking at something, like, if I look, where am I going to see a Tintin? You know, like, because it's inside of you and it's coming out. And I think this is fantastic. And I think it's pretty amazing that we can do this. And it's one of the things I find beautiful about Techspressionism is that we're not just like, I don't want to put down kids doing NFTs. I don't want to put down anybody, but when you look at a lot of work, you're like, you know, a lot of stuff from random prompts or regular prompts looks like the AI made the art. And then I looked at Patrick's cats, for example, this past week, and like, that's him. It's not just a technology. It's not like just anybody can go in there and do that. And I think that that's something that's really fantastic about this group, that we come out and we have our essence coming out through the technology. And we're able to make it an extension of us, rather than it's like, we're like, okay, tech, make me some art, please. Do it in blue, you know. When I was in university still, I finished art school and I switched and I was in film school, and I had the easiest job I had that I could pay my rent was I'd get swatches of people's furniture, like if they did a new couch and they had the material from a swatch from the couch, and they'd say, I want something naturey, or I want something wintry, like some random thing. And I'd be like, okay. And I just, just whip up a painting, but it didn't have any of my soul in it. It was just like, and I think it's really fantastic that I haven't seen one piece from Tommy that I'm like, who did that? I'm like, oh, it's Tommy, and this is wonderful. This is really fun to be in a group that's this, that has this ability to override the technology and let our souls come out, so to speak. Tommy's hand is up. So would you please take the stage, Mr. Mintz? Professor Mintz.
Is the microphone working? I'm so sorry. I have a million screens open here. So I would like to see if we could rise to that challenge of making something with our techniques that doesn't look like what you expect. I guess I'll share a recent work that's what people expect, and then I'll show you something that's maybe what we're not expecting. I'd like to just share that too, because it's a fun surprise to me. Share screen. Hold my breath while I click through a couple times here. So recently, I've been not sharing a lot of my recent work simply because I've been working on a larger timescale project where I'm returning to this spot. This is maybe a famous location in the middle of the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City, facing Manhattan. At dawn on the solstices and equinoxes is my current long-term project, just to come back here, have a meditative thing. And yeah, it is glitchy, and I do think there's a lot of, what Lee's talking about occurring within this space of this kind of use of digital processes to create something that is uniquely digital. And I hesitate to use the word with a PH, freak, to describe it, because in my mind that really describes like 2600 and the people that are doing phone phreaking and whistling in a whistle to get free phone calls international. But I do think part of that sense of like taking a technology and using it in a different way is the ethos that we work in. So I agree. So this is maybe something that is recognizable, right, Lee? And then I was sitting in my studio. I have a basement studio with the shades closed, and these were projected onto the wall behind my monitor. This is slit between shades, projecting slices of light on a dark wall. And so then I said, of course, let's go ahead and run collages from this. So here's the results, Lee, that I want to challenge you to say, oh, that's obviously Tommy's, because it's not, but it is in a fun way. And it's one of these things where I feel like, where are these moments of sort of the form, becoming unique, right? And part of the, let me see if I can zoom out again, the process, being evident. Oops, I just pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. I like this one. Kind of creating something that is more than, the component parts put together. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you. Where do I turn off share? I lost this. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. 1 second. Oh, that worked. Cool.
Thanks, Tommy. I still think that one did look like yours, but
good.
Just no, the first time that you said, and the second of that series, once you added, once it looked to me like it was put through what I call Tommy software, but I know it's the automated digital. Did you use the digital collage?
Yeah,
software?
Automated digital photo collage, same software. Just ran right through
So it had that little. It had a little bit of that, like the way it pastes the images. It had that flavor, but yeah, it was definitely.
I thought you'd recognize it if you zoom in.
Far from your, definitely, but it was still you for sure. And Michael, wow us, show us something that we don't know is yours, or what you want to show us.
After Michael, we should probably just move on to the Siberiana discussion, just so we have, in the interest of time. Oh, and Tommy,
yeah,
I just
I'll-
wanted to make this little sub note that Tommy actually wrote the software in Python, right? So it's not commercial software, but it's actual software that he wrote.
And it's free and open source up on GitHub. Please download it like we did and use it.
And Tommy, if you want, I do have that idiot's version that if you wanted to share to people, it makes my life so much easier when I do your software to have my dummy version. My girlfriend's a good
Yes,
computer.
let's share that.
genius.
If she's comfortable sharing it.
Yeah.
please.
She said
Thank you.
definitely. Yeah, that would be really good, and it makes it just makes it a little bit easier. Where did Michael go?
I'm right here. So, one of the, I think this is tangentially related, especially with the sense of audio that we've talked about historically, how some of this idea of phreaking and using tones to create workarounds and such. One of the areas that I've always been very fascinated is in feedback loops, not only audio-wise, but visually. So I've been playing around with some AI ideas based on feedback loops and what I can create that way. So let me bring my screen up here. And what I did was I just started with some very simple mathematical shapes and worked on feedback loops, not knowing where it would go to. So the next 8 images, I'm just going to share kind of where some of my experimentation has taken me. And this was non-directed, other than using the idea of a feedback loop to help generate these things with not anything specific other than a few initial very simple geometric shapes. And these are works in these are experimental works right now that I'm playing around with, but I'm very interested with some of the imagery here. Oh, nice.
Those are beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing. Those are really, and they're like really subtle. It's really beautiful. Oh, Karen?
Check out the chat. Janusz just put a glitch of us on the.
Oh, look at that. There we are. Thanks, Janusz. That's really cool. I like when people do that to us as a group, sort of surreptitiously. And we like Colin said, for this sake of time, that's pretty beautiful. Thanks, Janusz. For the sake of time, we do have Stephen and Tommy and Renata who are going to talk to us about Siberiana. So please take it away. Stephen, would you like to start maybe?
I'd like to start and probably finish quickly. I consider myself the junior member of the squadron here, to use a bicycle racing term. And so I'm excited about what's being created. I, consider our, real creator here to be Tommy, and I think he's the one who's got the presentation along with Renata to do. I think you'll be delighted by this, and it's kind of a model, I think, for a lot of things going forward. I'll pass it to Tommy, I think.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm gonna try to share screen once again here. So give me just another moment if you want a soft shoe for 10 more seconds. I'd appreciate it. Hold on. Okay. So Siberiana is a 3D model space that is accessible through web browsers. You don't have to download any software. It is using Mozilla company Hubs, which is an open source 3D space software that, depending on how you host it, it has some fees associated, and how many people you want to be able to have in your space. So this is what we're thinking of as like a town square space, and this is a mock-up still, where artists will have doors into their studios that we can hang out here and chat and then say, hey, come see what I've been working on, come see my work, and let's go ahead and walk into my studio right over here, people. And the nice thing about this interface, Mozilla Hubs, and we were playing with this recently, the four of us hanging out and talking, is it actually is a very present feel that you have with one another as you have these avatars floating around, and you can even put in a Zoom-like rectangle of your face talking to your webcam so people can see you, and the audio works quite well. The navigation is either arrow buttons or the W, A, S, and D on your keyboard. So it's a pretty rudimentary, if you will, like Minecraft style 3D space, but I think that's all that's needed to create that sense of being somewhere with other people. So those, sorry, one second. Those doors are going to lead to people's own rooms that I'm hoping people will modify. So we're going to send this link, and everybody will, I'm going to send a video on how to edit in Spoke, right? I'm just going to pull open this scene so you can see what a mock studio, or some people are calling these galleries, we could describe it how you like, space will look, that you replace the work on the wall with your work quite easily using the tools that Hubs has, and I'll have a video, as I said, describing that. But this is, I mean, really, the idea is to have a 3D space that feels like visually it's in the same place, right? So we keep the roof line, well, it is slightly different. It's slightly, I'll fix this. And sky, floor tiles I should fix with our new darker ones. We just did a bunch of updates yesterday. And the idea is you can have people hang out here. Say, we're going to meet up in town square, see who's there. Hey, come hang out in my studio for 10 minutes, look at this piece. And then let's go back to this town square and see what's going on back there. And so the idea is this sort of like, I don't know, social space, social sculpture that we've all been talking about. Us together being, how do we continue, to make that feel even more so? I think this might be an interesting way. So let's see where it goes. It's a giant experiment, and I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm for being wonderful guinea pigs in this. I don't know how successful it's going to be. We've had a lot of people respond. We've had 80 respondents say they're interested in having, a doorway, and then put up, send a shared link that we'll put into a doorway to link to your space. And that's really what Siberiana is. Does that make sense? I feel like I've looked at it so much, and like I'm talking in loops often when I describe this space. Can I answer questions while we have this open? I'm happy to navigate around and talk to people.
This is really exciting. I'm curious about one thing right off the bat. are they only still images or moving images as well? And if so, what formats?
So you could have any file type whatsoever put into your space, right? Your studio space. You can have a video, you can have a still image, you can have 3D models, sculptures, absolutely. What other files? Audio files, text files, anything. Yeah, it's all.
I thought maybe you could mention about the mirror while we're in the town square, the plaza. Tommy?
There's a mirror so you can see yourself. Oh, that's my avatar right now. It's a picture of me on a little avatar. And on the other side of the mirror, so the idea is we had 80 people who thought they would like a door. We only maybe have room for 40 doors. And the metaphor, I don't know how skeuomorphic this is to have an elevator going to different floors of our town square. Our town square. That was a slip. I see there's hands up. I'm gonna ask whoever had their hand up first to chime in. I see Colin's on top, and then Lee, and then Shahar. Colin, did you want to unmic?
Sure. I just was wondering, is each artist's space based on sort of like a template, like where it has the same sort of roof line and sky, or are people able to sort of just use the idea of a space as an actual artwork that they could make however they want? Like I was thinking about maybe doing something with Polycam.
Yes, to both. You could use our template. You can modify the template to remove all the walls and just keep the sky and the ceiling. You could remove everything. You could do whatever you want in Mozilla Hubs. And even in fact, we were thinking, if people want to participate and don't want to build out a space right now, you can just link to your website. You know, just have a link on the door to your site. That's actually what I was doing with some of these just to test.
Is there any way, like on the door, it says, you know, this is Lee's space or Renata's space? Like, is there some identifier in that way?
Excellent question. This is a conversation we just had yesterday. We're going to change the doors to be bigger pictures, and we're going to request that people submit a picture with their name on it. Just, that's a simple way to do exactly that, Colin. Yeah.
Is that the avatar as well? Going to be the same thing as the avatar?
Your avatar you can customize at any point when you enter the space. I'm forgetting exactly where it is here, but there's you can customize your avatar. They have all these pre-made, and then you could create your own, like I did, just by taking a picture. And there is sort of like a better way to have your picture, sort of arranged in space in order to have your face on top and not just your chin by your bottom. But I was just messing around once again. I'm sorry, this is going really slow. I think because Zoom's on.
Cynthia, I think I'll just reiterate a little bit what Tommy said. I think the idea is to make it as simple to get initially started, and that over time, as people get more comfortable with the space and the tools, if you want to, go crazy and do your own, do everything on your own, you'll be able to. I think one of the issues is going to be, because it's not going to be completely automated, at least not to begin with, we may need to have periodic timeframes for updates, but I don't want to get too deep on that. And Tommy, you want to address that? That's whatever you think.
Yeah, I mean, logistically, the back end on this is one of us using a tool to just copy and paste links and files to each of these 3D doors, if you will, and that will have to be somebody doing it. There's no program. There's no automated anything on that back end. So yeah, it would be, maybe we'd refresh it. We were talking about once a month or once a season, depending on how much demand there is. We'll just see how it goes. Yeah, but it is something we can update people's anytime you change your studio space or want to update your studio space, it sort of generates a whole new 3D space, and we have a new URL that we'll link to. And I'll have explicit instructions on exactly that in the video. Great
We
question.
should definitely put, like, once it launches, are you still going with December 1st for a opening, or is that fairly fluid at this point?
I think we have that as fairly fluid. It's a good description of that.
No, I
Right on,
think
because I mean, once it's up
think
and
you're-
running, I would definitely like to put it right on the Techspressionism homepage, so any visitors to the site are going to see, hey, I can actually go in here, you know, and explore people's studios, and people could go into the various studios without the actual artist being present, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And we're also thinking of having a green light on the door to indicate that the artist is present. You know, if you see 3 lights, maybe come out into the town square and have a conversation. Also, our opening has been pushed. We're going to be opening on the 31st rather than the 1st of December.
And
That
people
means-
could go in with an Oculus headset, right? If they want to, or some sort of a VR goggle piece of hardware, Tommy, is that the case?
Yes. And in fact, I find iPad navigation to be really great with Mozilla hubs. It's even better than keyboard and mouse because it has this sort of 2 thumb spaces that you just sort of, you know, swipe around, and it's like having 2 thumb joysticks on a Xbox controller or something. So yeah, the goggles are great on this. Absolutely. I tried it once with Oculus, and it looks great. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing. I feel like oh, we have more questions. Lee, did you want to ask something before?
Yeah, so I was sort of wondering a functional question,
Yeah.
a couple of functional questions about how this is organized. So you have a town square, which is your 3D space and doors. Are the doors and what's on the other side of the door part of your space? Or, you know, you mentioned that they could be a link to a website. So could this be to another hub space? And so is the hub space part of your space, this town square space, or is it part of something that you're creating yourself? Or it sounds like it could be a mishmash of any of these things.
Yeah, that's the answer. It could be a mishmash of any of those things. The hub space that you generate will be yours, right? Your little studio, whatever, small or big, really, is yours to manage and make with as you please. And you could link to it from outside of Siberiana. Like, you know, you could say, hey, come see my studio. I have it on my Instagram bio or whatever, sure. And the Siberiana, the way I'm hoping we'll have it set up is that there's a door in each studio that's a link back to Siberiana.
Mm-hmm. So you could presumably also have, like in your studio, assuming you're managing it, links to other places as well.
100%. Yes.
You could link to your NFTs, for example, from inside your studio.
I'm sorry, Cynthia has a question. I'm gonna pull open the studio if that's okay while you're asking a question, Cynthia. It's just gonna take me a second.
I just have a quick question, which I put in the chat. Can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you, but I don't see chat because I have so many things open on my screen.
No, just I just wanted to suggest that we share spaces. If you had 80 people and there are 40 spaces. I actually, in real life, was part of this Open Studios alternative space thing, and we were assigned roommates. And I became really good friends with the person that I was roommates with. So somehow, in the spirit of Techspressionists and sharing, I just think, you know, 2 for 1 would be the way to go. So
I think that's a fantastic idea, Cynthia. It might be logistically strange having 2 people develop one space.
Well, not if they talk to each other.
Yes, that's exactly.
I mean, that's the point. Is
like
that the 2 people would talk to each other, and they would share in some way and share ideas. And I think it'd be really great. And I've just been noticing that many of us have influenced each other's work so directly. I mean, I was thinking that in the spring sometime we might do a Techspressionist salon where people point out who influenced them in the group. But, you know, this is a way to explore that and not be exclusive, but be inclusive by making sure there's enough space for everyone. So I personally would be happy to share and work with a partner. And while you may think that it's technically more challenging, for me, it's a little less challenging to have someone to brainstorm with.
Awesome. I think that's a fantastic idea. So I wonder how we could solicit interest in that. That's an open question. We don't need an answer for, but let's try to figure that out. Like to determine.
I mean, maybe if the people that would want to pair up just reach out to the partner that they want to work with in terms of a collab, they could do that. I don't know.
Right. Or if you want to have a partner assigned to you, we could just sort of have a pool. If somebody says, hey, I want to be part of the assign me a partner group, we could do that too.
Yeah.
So in the tutorial, are you going to include information about how to create the door back out to Siberiana? Because I think that's definitely something I was like, how would you do that?
That's part of, so there's default stuff in this, right? So actually, there's a link back to Siberiana right here. You know, that'll open it up and bring you right back to right now it's a splash page, and I'm using Siberiana.studio just to point to a directory on my web server that I maintain for an old website. And I just park everything there. But here's, you know, so there is the door there that'll bring you back to, oops, I just clicked on too many X's here and I lost where we were, but it'll bring you back to Siberiana. So that's part of the template, if you will, you know, that people can modify. And yeah, maybe that's what we'll ask, is that you just include a link back to Siberiana.studio somewhere, you know, whether it's in 3D space or in a web page. I see Roz has a hand up. Hey, Roz.
Hi, everybody. I was dealing with a cesspool situation today, so really fun, high-tech stuff, but it is in a way. It's good to be here. I've been here off and on. Great presentations. Tommy, would this be something where if you had a conversation, it's recorded back in time? Is it something where you can go back and see what's happened in the plaza or the open space, or is it all live and can a lot of people meet at once? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm curious about that.
I don't know about recording. It is all live. On the license that I have right now, I think we have 10 people that can meet. I'm sorry, 20 people that can meet in the space at once.
I see, yeah.
And then once that limit is hit, it starts a second instance of the space, I think, where, you know, it's a space, but it's another virtual room where different avatars will show up. I'm hoping that, you know, as you start seeing 10, 20 people show up in here, people will be like, hey, come see my studio. It's getting crowded. Let's 5 people pop off into one room, and maybe it'll never hit that threshold of too many people. I'd love to have recording. I don't know how to do it, Roz. I think it's a great question, and we should, as curators, look into that. I'm not sure.
Thanks. And do we need a user and password? I mean, security wise, is it just, you just go to it's like a website on a URL on our browser? Is that?
Yep. And Mozilla Hub's building tool is called Spoke, and you will put in an email address, and then they email that email address with a link, and it's called a non-password or something. You don't have a password. It's like they just send you a link every time you want to log in, so verify that it's you. Does that make sense?
You know, I was just thinking too, if there's a regular meeting day and time, kind of like the way the co-working sessions are held, it would be a really easy decentralized way for people to get together. There wouldn't need to be anyone running it. It could just be like every Tuesday at noon, let's get, you know, open studios or whatever, you know, that could be kind of cool. And then people in the public also could come in and they would know, oh, there's going to be a bunch of artists in there at that time, you know, kind of like expanding on the whole social sculpture idea. It might be interesting. And that could be right on the homepage under the description and the link in, you know.
That's great. Is there a fee, which is fine, but is there one? Is that something to anticipate?
No, there's no fee. I mean, what happens is Mozilla Hubs has a couple different tiers of their hosting quantity. So it's a limit on how many people can have avatars in the space at the same time is determined by our pricing tier. So I don't know, I got something that's really cheap. It's like $10 a year or $20 a year. I just footed it like, because it's an art project to me, whatever, $20. The next one up is significantly more expensive. It's like $80 a month. And that allows for, like, it's enterprise. You have 100 avatars and all sorts of, they intend that for, businesses to make like Nike Town and sell their sneakers kind of thing. But yeah, there are other more commercial tiers. There's also the possibility of us setting up a server ourselves, using, I don't know, here's my Raspberry Pi that's unused, right? That we could just sort of have Siberiana live on. Not sure why this way. One of the things I wanted to say is, yes, space, like the idea of having a time to hang out here is great. And you can place all these different, things within the space to share, including drawings. You could draw in a space and upload a picture and just have it floating there, or put it on a table and then pin it there. And it will stay even once you leave. I'm not sure why that's that. Oops, I'm sorry. I just clicked the wrong buttons again as I'm demonstrating. So pin that and it'll stay there. So that was glitchy looking. I'm not sure what's going on exactly, but it should have been a picture of mine that's showing up and sitting on the table.
Guys, we're getting close to the hour-and-a-half mark.
Yeah.
I see Karen has her hand up. Maybe we could make that the last question and we could cap it, pause, end the recording, but we'll keep the, the Zoom open for the after party / advisory board get together.
I can go over into the after party if you want. My question was very simple in terms of modifying the space. If everybody goes in 80 people at a time and suddenly modify, I don't want to give you a lot of work in the background, or whether that affects you or it's part of our hubs. I just want to darken down some things. That's all, because I'm going to try to do more of a theater cinema look when you walk in. That's all.
Yeah, no, I think all that's, that
won't cause a lot of input on your end in the beginning, will it?
So I think in the beginning, we're going to have a little bit of a lift to put everybody's links in the right place. And yeah, that's the hardest part, is to make sure we're keeping track of it.
Right.
I have a spreadsheet that we're using to keep track of things. And we're hoping to have an email address that we're going to communicate through. Stephen, Renata, Michael, and I think all have the password to Siberiana-Techspressionism@gmail.com that I did send out a bulk email from already once, but it might have ended up in people's junk folders because there's 250 people from a newly formed email. I am going to use that email to send, or we are going to send individual emails to each person saying, please respond to this with your link and a picture for your door.
Great.
And that's all.
Just trying to make it easy on you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. We've been thinking about exactly that. Like,
okay.
Tommy, I could also set up a really simple gravity form on the site that you could direct people to that could go to you guys. So it would have an upload field and, an email field and some other stuff. If that would make it easier than fielding tons of email responses, I don't know, but you and I can connect about that. If you think that might be helpful.
I think, I'd love to talk to you about it, because it is about, it's like a database thing, right? How do you manage this?
You could export all that stuff out as a CSV also at the end of the submission window, so that might be something that would make your life easier, possibly. I don't know.
Do we know when the submission window is?
So we are hoping it will open as soon as we get these instructions online. I'm hoping to do it this week, and then have that up, 2 weeks of submission window, and then we could have 2 weeks to gather stuff, and then it's December 31st, and have an opening kind of thing. Gather stuff meaning gather all these links and pictures, populate the town square, make a final version, send that out, and say, hey, here's everything, December 31st.
And just this last thing, Tommy, so just to sort of, I mean, everyone's space can be developed, after the opening, can change. It doesn't need to be quote unquote done by the opening, right? Like it could be a work in progress for everybody.
Yes. And
Yes.
I think we'd like to encourage people to change their spaces regularly, to update, and not think of it so much as like a gallery, but more like your studio space, where you're always sort of putting up your new stuff, taking stuff down, have flat files over here with a bunch of old stuff. Maybe you put stuff into, I'm not sure if that's the good metaphor, but that's what I was imagining it functioning like, and that we could have updates at a regular time period. So it's not like, one of the things that we discussed is how do we make sure this isn't constant full-time job maintaining things, and it's by having a either monthly or every couple months day where we gather new links and put them up and have a new town square set of links launch date. Does that make sense?
Are you streaming live video into this space right now?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
It's super cool.
Yeah, so somehow I'm on a second camera too. I have two cameras attached to my I'm trying to back up to it here. I just scooted past my video. There we go. Hello.
Tommy,
wow.
Tommy, it's a bit glitchy right now because of Zoom, I would suspect.
Zoom,
but
yes.
we have our meetings this way where we just have live avatars talking in the space.
Wow.
And it's in real time, and it's very crisp and very, very fluid.
And the audio is great too. And it's actually proximate audio. So if I move my avatar further away from your avatar, I get quieter. So it's a really interesting experience that I think this group will appreciate, because we're kind of already playing in the space, and let's just organize a little bit and see where it goes.
And Tommy, it's really cool, the idea of like every two months, or every 6 weeks, or every 3 months, whenever it is, every X amount of time, then there's updates. It's really cool because then it gives it a bit of a cachet, and after the third time that it's changed over, there's going to be people, now you can be like, oh, you liked it last time, but wait to see what we got set up for this time. It can help generate fans.
Yes, and also what we're thinking about doing as curators is having a few pieces of art in the central town square, and have that be a rotating exhibition. So, be like banners, if you will, or, whatever our skeuomorphic metaphor is for having, public presentations of images in a town square.
Hey guys, I think I got to stop the recording just so we keep the lengths of these salons relatively standard. But anyone that has, further questions about Siberiana, definitely hang out. I'll keep the Zoom open until around 2:30, and then I can throw a host to someone else. I got to go pick my kid up. But the Zoom can stay open as long as everyone wants, as long as someone's willing to hang out and be host. So but thanks so much, Tommy and team, for this Siberiana project. It's absolutely amazing. And I think, having a real, like a place in cyberspace for the group is an awesome idea. I mean, this is like what Techspressionism needs, so I feel like, yeah, kudos, really, really cool. And, thanks, Lee, for hosting, moderating, today. And, one thing that we always try to do for the after party is come up with a topic. So anyone that has any ideas, please stick around. And the only caveat is the person who suggests the topic is the moderator. I hope that doesn't deter anybody. But with that, I will close this salon, and thanks to all of the artists who attended. So we will stop recording in 3, 2, 1, and cut.